Would be the Jeff Cameron Show right here on 93.3 Real Talk Radio and Warchant TV. Great to be with you as always and a fine Ballsmick Wednesday to you and yours. I'm Jeff. It's just me. Well, and you. And I got to give Ben credit. He's back there on the ones and twos. But let's do this thing. Florida State off a win. Kind of a must-get win if you're going to win the ACC tournament. They get it yesterday, but not without drama. You can't win without drama with this bullpen. No chance, no how. Florida State gets the win. More on that in a moment. Good to be with you. Appreciate you joining us as always. I would make note if you're out and about, driving around town, listening on 93.3 Real Talk Radio. Thanks, man or ma'am, and be careful while you're out there. Kids, half days, getting crazy. School's almost over. That's right. Soon they'll be home all the time. You got that to look forward to. By the way, on Twitter, it's at J Cameron Show. Oh, and if you're in the Heisen Legal Law Firm chat, good on you. Appreciate you. Good to see you. I saw where James B is in. He's in. So it's still good. We have successfully unshackled James B after I erroneously and mistakenly banned him after the Monday Smash. Well, I got a quick trigger finger. By the way, attention, Florida, if you're a victim of an auto accident, we introduce our live chat sponsor, Heisen Legal Law Firm, dedicated to representing injured clients statewide. If you've been in an accident, call Heisen Legal Law Firm, 813-803-0733 for a free consultation. Remember, there's no cost to you unless they win. Your interests come first with Heisen Legal Law Firm, the name you can trust for justice. Call 813-803-0733 now, or visit HeisenLegalLawFirm.com. Heisen Legal Law Firm, your advocate in times of need. Offices Tampa. By the way, if you're in that chat, it's a band hammer, huh, George? I like that. By the way, if you're in that chat, ask away, man. There's a lot going on in college football right now, believe it or not, and a lot of kind of the new frontier. I've got big news on that front, including a whopping figure of total revenue generated by the Big Ten in the most recent fiscal year. And yet still, there are those that purport to cover college football with a lack of understanding of how it is at any school, not in the Big Ten or the SEC, despite seeing this record amount of revenue and the gross disparity that it represents between those two conferences and every other conference. They still fail to see how it is that anybody would want to be a part of that and not be a part of where they're at. Regardless of how that ended up that way, it's funny. There are a lot of things involved in that I want to touch on yet again. That's been the theme of the week because every day somebody else writes something stupid and I'm forced to take them to task because you cannot just take that lying down. You've got to go and point out that it's wildly inconsistent, hypocritical, and foolish. So we'll do that. And you have a player suing, as we well know. That is something that came up the other day regarding Florida's coach, Billy Napier, who's already under a microscope and a lot of frustration amongst Florida fans. Now they got a player suing him amongst others. And this, I don't know that it expedites things. I think he's already in a world of trouble going into this season. And I think Florida desperately needs him to have a good season because they don't want to have to continue to start over. What will that be? The fourth time in a very short period of time that they've had to start over. That's the funny thing about hiring and firing coaches is that it is easy to clamor for people to be fired. And for sure, there are times where it is evident that they need to be fired. And you got to pull the trigger and let the chips fall where they may. But certainly easier to scream it from the mountaintop when you don't have a fiscal pawn in the game, if you will. So Florida will be reeling to have to start over again, but I think with that schedule, it seems likely. This doesn't help matters any, adds further to the embarrassment. We'll talk about the Rashada situation. We'll talk about the Big 12 and the ACC leaders approving settlement proposals with the NCAA. Now, that's interesting, and we'll get to what that might mean. I think most people, while probably at odds with what's happened in college football, most people just kind of say, I just want my sport back. But, you know, you got to do better than that. You got to say, well, at least let me delve into what is and not live in fantasy land and figure out where this is headed. We may be getting the beginning stages of clarification about the future of big-time college football. We've been waiting on it, right? What are some of the constraints going to be on NIL? What's that going to look like and where? Meaning, do the Big Two eventually break off from the NCAA and have a different set of rules governing their member institutions from those that are left behind and not willing to ante up and play big-time college football, as it's known now, semi-pro football? And where do they go? Do they remain under the umbrella of the NCAA? I think both could work, and I think it would be interesting. I'd watch both, but I'm a gambler. I'll watch anything that I can gamble on, but I would actually watch both and enjoy it, I think. Back to FSU baseball for a second. I think this could not have worked out any better in the way that Florida State won this game. Yeah, it got dicey. You have a 12-6 lead going into the ninth. You feel better with the add-on runs once you got them. You had the Tibbs hit. You had the Max Williams hit. You felt very good about that. Insurance runs are nice. Then you give up a leadoff homer. That from Connor Holtz. You walk two of the next three batters. What are we doing here? You could sense this wasn't going to be a good thing. Next thing you know, it's 12-9, and you're nervous. But you go to Armstrong, and normally, so you go to Armstrong. He gives up a hit to the only batter he faces, and then you go to Arnold, and you go, okay, well, what are we doing here? Kind of a bullpen day anyhow. Go in and get those last two outs, and because you don't play today or tomorrow, you don't play till Friday, then he's able to make his start on regular rest, and really it amounts to him doing no more than he would have done with a bullpen session. So I said before the ACC tournament got started that I thought this played out well for them if they could win the first game. Now, I don't love the format. I don't love the ACC tournament. I don't like that to be the thing that decides the ACC champion with this pod format. It's silly. I've never liked this, just like I don't like conference basketball tournaments, the money grabs that are conference basketball tournaments. You have an entire damn season. Home, away, short rest, injuries, all the things that happen over the course of a long season to determine, to hold up a mirror to what and who you are. And then we say, let's let a truncated pod system decide who the champion is. I don't get it. I don't like it. I never have. But it's the system that they have. So, okay. If you're going to play it, you might as well win it. And Florida State has a very good chance to win the ACC tournament because they won yesterday and they saved their best arm. And they have an opportunity now to put themselves in the driver's seat, at the very least, to find themselves in what would amount to the semis. So it's going to be interesting. Be pretty cool to win it. I think more than anything, good on you, Link Jarrett. Good on you, Florida State baseball. That is the 40th win of the season for Florida State. At a program where winning 40 games was certainly once the norm, it was an afterthought for a very long time. Nobody made a big deal. That's a credit to Mike Martin. Nobody made a big deal about winning 40-plus games or even more than that, 50 games plus, because after a while, once you sustain success for a very long period of time and you've brought in elite talent, it just becomes the expectation. And then from there, you got to cash it in and eventually win a national championship. And that's where the angst lives, right? Not having crossed the finish line and being the last one standing, doing everything else there was to do, but not doing that. And that's why every year it was sort of like, well, they'll win 40 games. Yeah. Well, we took it for granted because once you stop winning 40 games every year and you're rendered somewhat moot, and then all of a sudden you're not only not all that interesting, not all that good, no longer elite, it culminated with not even making the tournament. And you thought, well, how the mighty have fallen and where do we go from here and how quickly can it get turned around? So to my point earlier in the week, 40 wins this year and finishing in the manner that Florida State has as they currently sit as a top 8 national seed. Getting this win yesterday certainly helps bolster that. That is, I think that constitutes and would qualify as a pretty remarkable turnaround for Florida State baseball in year 2 under Link Jarrett. Corey pointed out yesterday on Seminole Headlines that this would be the last year that narrative works. That's how quickly this gets turned on its ear, that you go from you're irrelevant, you're not in the tournament, you're down and out, how long is it going to take to, well, here's a resounding answer. Here's how long it's going to take. 1 effing year. 1 effing year. That's how long it's going to take. Look at us now. And they're doing it despite significant injuries to the rotation. So Whitaker pitched well yesterday, and I think you're starting to believe you're going to get 2 to 3 innings out of him moving forward pretty consistently. Do they get Leiter back at all? If they do, and you can get to a place where maybe he could give the same, and then you have what you have with your first 2, is it enough with this offense to go on an exceptional run? I think it's enough. I would say this. I don't know that it will happen, given some of the shortcomings with this team. But I do think it's enough to get you to Omaha. I don't think you can win it as currently constructed. You would have to go on one of the great heaters of all time offensively to overcome some defensive shortcomings behind home plate, some bullpen issues that are very, very real. You'd have to do some of what you did yesterday, which is win some 12-9, 12-10, 14-11 games. I think they're certainly gifted enough offensively. When you look at the way they spread the love yesterday, they're gifted enough offensively to be able to at any given game, do that. But over a stretch of games in the postseason, some of which will certainly be on the road against high-level, high-caliber arms, at some point you feel like the luck will run out. But I'm not going to state that emphatically that they couldn't do it. They could do it. They could surprise. They really could. So I'm happy. I'm happy. Jeff, what did you make of Devin Travis' comment about Leiter? I got to be honest with you. I don't think I saw it. You guys have to enlighten me. Said he's out for the rest of the season. Okay, so he just, okay. Well, James B., to answer your question, you guys listened to me over the years, and I appreciate that. I'm always very appreciative. I think for those of you that are regular listeners and have been for a long time, you know that I try to allow for people to read between the lines. I don't always bluntly state something that I know to be true or I think is likely, because of a couple of reasons, especially when it has to do with health. Now, I'll give you my honest opinion about anything. And I don't really worry about whether people like that or not. That's the job. That's kind of what I got to do, right? So that's after 26 years, I really do not worry about whether or not you like my opinion or not. But I think in the matters of health and health concerns, it can be a little convoluted. It can be a little murky. There are legal ramifications to talking about somebody's health, and especially if you have inside information about that and then go on the airwaves with it. So I'm always kind of careful about that. Also, it's the best way to alienate yourself from a coaching staff when you are privy to information and then you blabber about somebody's health. You got to be very careful with it. So we try to define that on the air for everybody. But then there are scenarios by which it's a mixture where it's sort of here's what I think is happening. Here's my frustration. Here's where I think they might be frustrated. But it's one side of the story. Don't know what the other side of the story is in terms of word for word, the way they would state it. But it seems to me, if we don't see Cam Leiter by such and such date, it's likely we won't see him. You guys can read between the lines with that. That's pretty direct, actually. But, that's kind of the stuff I've said before. I feel like, when you have a kid that has real potential to pitch in the majors and make a lot of money, it complicates the situation. Those kids, and this is any kid at any school, by the way, not specific to Cam Leiter, the situation with any pitcher that is in line to make a lot of money, and they know their draft stock, and they know the way they're viewed by the major leagues, and they have handlers, and they've got family members that are very, very involved. There are countless stories. This seems to happen more, by the way, in baseball than in any other sport. Doesn't really happen in football much. Doesn't really happen in basketball much. It happens in college baseball, and there are a lot of reasons for that. But parents are very involved with their baseball players, and the higher up you go and the better you get, the more people get involved. with that baseball player. There's money to be made from that baseball player. And I'm not saying that everybody involved with a player has ulterior motives, but some do. And if you marry that with very real concern about a lingering physical ailment, and then you have other voices from on high saying, look, kid stands to make this much money, I'd be real careful about how soon I rushed him out to win a college baseball game. That's a recipe for a problem. And, you know, I'll just tell you this. I wouldn't be surprised if we don't see him at any point moving forward here. I'm hoping against that. I will also tell you, though, and you guys have heard my interviews with both Link Jarrett and Mike Capozzi, and I got to give them a lot of credit. Those are two gentlemen that they want to talk. I over the years, when I interview a coach or a player for that matter, there's always, especially now in the era of multimedia. So we have this, right? We have a camera. You're going to be on a pod. You're going to be on a terrestrial radio broadcast. You're going to be on a YouTube feed. Depending on, you know, how much in the way of resources you have, you may be on somebody's TikTok. You're going to be on all these things. Because of that, generally speaking, when we send links for these interviews with these coaches and sometimes players, you get a chance to chat them up a little bit before you hit the record button. And I don't like to ambush people. You know, I'll ask tough questions, but I'll tell you that I'm going to ask you a tough question. One of the things that and just to give you a peek behind the curtain, I don't think they would mind me telling you this because this is just who they are. One of the things I really like, I mean, this is a golden age in terms of communication with coaches at Florida State. If you talk to Mike Norvell and say, you know, hey, can we get you at this time or this time? He's fine with you asking anything. He may not give you the answer you want. He may not, I mean, he's going to choose to take it wherever he wants to take it. But just like his open door practice policy, you're going to be there. You're going to see for yourself everything. Now, there's certain rules you got to follow, but for the most part, you got carte blanche to be out there every day and watch the practices and have an opinion about it. He doesn't care. He could vehemently disagree with me about something I say on the program as long as I'm not crossing a line and once again talking about somebody's medical or something like that. Then he's fine with that. I mean, we've disagreed about things before, and he gets it. He gets the job. He gets the job that I have. He gets the job that he has. He can't be worried about all that stuff. Well, Link and Micah and those guys, they're all very much the same. Both times that I've asked them about injured players or players that were missing time for anything, I've said beforehand, before we've hit record, I'm going to have to ask you about so-and-so. I'm going to have to ask you. Their response has always been, it's your job. I understand. Ask me anything you want. As a talk show host, pseudo journalist / entertainer, whatever you want to describe me, somebody who wants to get it right, somebody who wants to be able to lend context to what everybody's seen. You can't ask for anything more than that. You really can't. Those two gentlemen at various points in interviews I've done with them have said, go back to the last one. They said, we feel like we're close to getting Ben Barrett back. Well, we've seen Ben Barrett since those comments were made. All right. And they even got specific as to what happened, meaning the velocity was down when they were in Greenville, South Carolina. They didn't like it. They decided to pull him because certain markers were not being met and the measurements concerned them. So they wanted to get him right. Okay. Well, that's as transparent as you're going to get. They turned around later on and talked about Whitaker and said what? Well, we build guys back up. There are stages to being able to come back. I believe Mike, at the last time I talked to him when he was bringing up Whitaker specifically, I think he said he was on like stage 4 of 6 stages or whatever it was, something close to that. If I got that wrong by one, that's fine. Let me know. But he was that kind of honest and said, I fully expect to see Whitaker again. And we did. They also said at one point they thought things were trending in the right direction for Cam Whiter. And because they had been so spot on previous and so forthcoming with the commentary about other players along the way, you had to take them at their word. You had to believe that they felt good about that process or the stages that they were at. I have no reason to believe they would just lie about something like that, or lie is a bit harsh, but give you half truths or anything. I don't think that that's what they were doing. I think they really felt like, and maybe they still do feel like they're going to get him back at some point. But I think that there might be, for lack of a better term, some politics involved in that. Not in the sense of obviously, government, but you know what I mean? Some sort of differing opinions about how best to handle a situation like that. So I don't know at this point. I'm having a hard time. I think one thing I know, players want to play. Players want to play. All players. You don't get to some place like Florida State as a football player, baseball player. You don't get to this place at this level of competition and not be a hell of a competitor and not be, a very, very, very good athlete, typically. And you love competing. You love winning. You love going at it. You love trying to get the best out of what you got. And guys don't like sitting on the sidelines. So it doesn't surprise me when I hear people reference the fact that Leiter has told people he's anxious to get back. Link has said that Leiter has talked about wanting to get back. I believe that to be true. I think that players want to play. Sometimes coaches end up having to protect players from themselves because they want to play that bad. That's not abnormal. So if the player really wants to play, then it becomes some of the stuff that does not involve competition. And that can be very, 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 very frustrating. All right, I'll delve into the chat here in a second. I want to get into some of these other topics as well. It's Jeff Cameron Show, 93.3 Real Talk Radio, Warchant TV.
You probably already know that Pinch a Penny Pools and Spas is your one-stop destination for all pool maintenance needs, offering everything you need from chemicals, cleaners, vacuums, nets, and more. But that's not all. Pinch a Penny also carries a huge selection of premium hot springs hot tubs paired with easy financing options, making these luxury hot tubs affordable for everyone. And if you have an older hot tub and you're worried about the hassle of removing it, worry no more. Pinch a Penny will not only remove and haul away your old hot tub, but also offer a trade-in value for a credit towards your new one. So why wait? Visit Pinch a Penny's 12,000 square foot showroom today on Greer Road and discover how effortless and affordable owning a fantastic hot tub can be. Find out more at TallahasseeHotSpring.com. That's TallahasseeHotSpring.com.
This is Shannon Young with Fairway Independent Mortgage Corporation. Investors, are you looking for a creative way to purchase your next rental property? Are you looking to get into the Airbnb space? If so, you need to know about DSCR loans. It stands for Debt Service Coverage Ratio. These are loans that do not require traditional income verification. As long as the proposed rent covers the mortgage payment on the subject property, that's the only income you need. If you're looking at investing and don't know if you can qualify, let's set up a plan to get your next income-producing property and start putting you on a path to passive income. Give me a call at 954-369-6171. And don't forget, every fellow Knoll that we close a loan for, I will personally make a donation of $250 to the Battle's End. It's Shannon Young at 954-369-6171.
Equal housing lender. NMLS number 373031.
Hey, let me tell you about my friends at Tried and True Consulting, a Seminole-owned business that specializes in payments and business solutions. Tried and True's core expertise includes card, ACH, point of sale, mobile, e-commerce, and hosted payment solutions. Tried and True will help you reduce costs and increase your bottom line. That always sounds nice. Whether you're a retailer, restaurant, licensed professional, or service industry, Tried and True is saving you money. Tried and True's expertise extends to payroll, video menu ad boards, IT services, web design, and social media. It's time to make one call and tell the competition to take it on down the road. Call Don or Joe today at 844-464-6653. That's 844-464-6653. When you do business with Tried and True, they contribute 10% of the net revenue to the Battle's End. So go Tried and True today. Call 844-464-6653.
Ready for a breath of fresh air this tax season? Well, breathe easy with E&B Heating and Air. Don't miss out on federal tax incentives for new AC systems and heat pumps. Take advantage of up to $2,000 in tax credits, plus additional savings from city and manufacturer rebates. E&B Heating and Air Conditioning has been serving Tallahassee and surrounding areas since 1974. Call us today for your free estimate at 850-575-9119 or visit us online at enbheatandair.com. That's enbheatandair.com.
Science-backed, technology-tracked, and coach-led. Hey, Jeff Cameron here. You've heard me rave about the benefits of Orange Theory Fitness and the proven track record of science-backed interval training. Well, now Orange Theory Fitness has done it again, adding more ways for you to improve your health and look your best. In addition to the always great standard workouts, OTF has added Tread 50 and Strength 50. For those in the mood to just lift for an afternoon or attack those cardio goals for the day. Take the guesswork out of exercise. Make sure you're getting the most out of each and every workout. Orange Theory Fitness, location Midtown Tallahassee and Village Square Boulevard.
The Jeff Cameron Show, brought to you by Orange Theory Fitness. 2 Tallahassee locations, Midtown on Thomasville Road and Northside in the Village Common Shopping Center. Online at orangetheoryfitness.com.
Pretty crazy day in the world of college football. Pretty crazy week. Let's get caught up, shall we? All right. Here's where we're at. We are, as many of you know, approaching the 3rd anniversary of the NCAA allowing college athletes to benefit from name, image, likeness. You're probably tired of just those 3 words, maybe. It's now dealing with a bunch of legal challenges off the field, and every day we get another story along those lines. That's kind of normal as you transition, especially if it's a radical shift as we're seeing now. This is I guess best represented at this time by a lawsuit against a booster, coaches, and an unfulfilled NIL collective promise. You know this story as it relates right now to Jaden Rashada, who is, suing Florida head football coach Billy Napier, suing a university booster, and suing a former NIL staffer. Rashada is 20 and now at the University of Georgia after having been at Arizona State for the 2023 season. He's transferred to Georgia. Kind of an interesting take for Georgia, but they did. Nonetheless, you may recall at a time where it was eye-popping as the numbers began to get leaked. It was said to have been an offer to Rashada in the neighborhood of close to actually $14 million, $13.85 million. He claims he was assured that that would be money paid to him, $13.85 for signing with the University of Florida. In fact, this all went away 24 hours before he was supposed to sign with Florida, at which point he would receive $500,000, he was told, according to him, up front. My guess is this gets settled because it's kind of embarrassing and there's a lot of tentacles involved in all of this, but it certainly represents another stage, right? A new line having been crossed. Players suing coaches and boosters over NIL. Now, if Rashada ends up getting, let's say, a significant amount of money from the lawsuit, this is believed to be a thing that will open the doors for college athletes who are frustrated by perhaps promises they view as unfulfilled in their specific NIL promises from around the country. Open the door for more lawsuits, more opportunities to take coaches and collectives and boosters and athletic programs to court. Think about this year. We talk about the anniversary. The NCAA and power conferences, which I'm going to get into this story in a moment, are mulling a revenue sharing agreement with the players. This has been a year in which you've had a federal judge say that the NCAA cannot enforce any NIL rules at all. And as it pertains to Florida State on that front, you saw that they have petitioned via the law firm that represents them, the NCAA, to greatly reduce the penalties handed down, including the loss of scholarships for an NIL violation. Now that the courts have said, federal judge has said that the NCAA can't enforce those NIL rules, Florida State is saying, look, we worked with you. We tried to expedite this. You heard my commentary about this on Monday, where I went off talking about Florida State needs to be far less accommodating than they've been over the last number of years. They have helped out the NCAA around every turn and every misstep along the way, and never once been given a break for having done so. There has been no meet in the middle. Thanks for helping out. Thanks for being honest. Thanks for turning yourself in, guys. None of it. But you've had, obviously, everything from Reggie Bush suing the NCAA and getting his Heisman Trophy back, Nick Saban blasting the current college sports landscape as being untenable. He was at an NIL roundtable in D.C. when he did it. I mean, this is where we're at right now. But here's where I think it gets very, very interesting. And I'll segue to this now because these are big numbers, and you're going to have to bear with me. I do not chide you by reading. You're capable of reading, and you're all smart guys and gals. Doing a radio show here, so I should lend some context for those that are too busy to do so. And if you're driving about, you don't want to be reading while you're driving. So here you go. Let's catch up on all of this. The headline reads, Big 12 ACC leaders approve House versus the NCAA settlement proposals. All right. Presidents and chancellors in both the Big 12 Conference and the ACC voted to approve proposals of a settlement in the House versus the NCAA class action lawsuit yesterday. It's another step towards finalizing a settlement in the landmark case that is likely to reshape the college sports business model. All right. And this is why I said in the opening segment, I think we're moving closer to a little bit more in the way of clarification about the future of college football, specifically football. The remaining Power conferences and NCAA Board of Governors are expected to vote this week as well. Settlement details are expected to include north of $2.7 billion in back pay damages that the NCAA will owe to former Division I athletes, as well as future revenue sharing models between Power Conference schools and athletes. The damages made available to Division I athletes dating back to 2016 as back pay for lost name, image, and likeness earning opportunities would likely be paid out over the course of 10 years. Combination of NCAA reserve funds and reductions in the future revenue distributions to the conferences. The NCAA, and I'm going to get to some specifics here in a second, the NCAA is expected to cover roughly $1.1 billion in damages. The Power Conferences would be responsible for roughly 40% of the remaining damages. The revenue sharing would be a model now for Power Conference programs, potentially as soon as this upcoming year, all right, in which 22% of those schools' average annual revenue, that's roughly $20 million a year, would be distributed directly to athletes. Okay, so let's talk about what that means. It means that the Power Conference programs, and we know who those are. One has been rendered obsolete. Others are certainly not as successful or lucrative as what we now call the Power 2, or Super 2, which are the Big Ten and the SEC. And there are numbers that are further revealing the separation of those two conferences. But get back to that. Okay, so we follow Florida State. We'll bring it back to Florida State, all right? Millions of dollars in revenue are brought in annually by television contracts. You guys know this, right? And ticket sales. Now, because of the millions upon millions upon millions of dollars that are brought in with TV rights, television contracts, ticket sales, and the like, merchandise, all that stuff, right? This is the stuff that for years was not shared. For years, people would say, well, a coach can make $12 million. They could put chocolate water slides, if you will, or chocolate flumes in these athletic departments, football-only facilities. They could have absurd trips like Michigan took to Europe together. They could do all these things. They could do everything but pay the players. They wouldn't share any of it. And there was such an excess of money that you thought, well, that's curious. That guy makes $14 million a year. You can't give Johnny $50,000 for being the starting quarterback and selling millions of jerseys? So this was the crux of the argument, right? This plan, in theory, would give you a budget for doing exactly that, for paying players. So $20 million or thereabouts, 22% of the average of the school's average annual revenue brought in by television rights, etc., could then be used to distribute directly to athletes. According to NCAA President Charlie Baker, the most important part about the settlement, and I quote, let's face it, there's still a lot of work to be done out there, but this creates some clarity and some visibility on a whole bunch of issues that have sort of been rolling everybody around for a while. The other thing it does is create predictability and stability for all of the schools. It creates a tremendous opportunity for student athletes. Now, the other side of this, why is the NCAA willing to do this? Well, for a lot of reasons. Their ass is in the jackpot, for starters, as told to them by the courts. A settlement would institute significant change in college sports, and for the NCAA, obviously we know they've resisted compensating athletes. The NCAA is motivated to do this and not take this to trial. Were the NCAA to lose at trial, it would be on the hook for damages as high as $20 billion. That, according to Yahoo Sports. Want to give them credit. And that were circulated amongst power conference presidents, administrators, an amount that would have to be paid out immediately, by the way, and could force the NCAA in that moment, if they were to lose in court, where they have lost repeatedly, if they were to lose in this case, they would file for bankruptcy. It would also strike down any existing constraints on NIL and revenue sharing moving forward. So that's another way of saying they wouldn't be able to wrangle this all in and have some semblance of order and structure, which is what you, the fan, has been asking for, right? Like, I think a lot of people, not all, I think a lot of people are okay with the idea when they see how much money is being generated by big-time college football. They're okay with the idea of a player making some money off their name, their image, and their likeness. Like, you kind of get that Jameis Winston probably should have made a little bit of money for the amount of jerseys, ticket sales, TV exposure he provided Florida State, just like Tim Tebow could have at Florida. And you go through, we've all heard the numbers before, what a Heisman Trophy is worth to a university in ticket sales, in gear, in exposure, PR, you name it. It's millions upon millions upon millions of dollars. Most of us are kind of all right with the idea of sharing a little bit of money of that with the players. What you don't like is that there's no through line. There's no consistency, that one school could pay its players this amount, another school, state to state, the laws are different. You just wanted some uniformity. And I think if we're getting closer to that, and there's a lot here, it's kind of alluded, there's more to this. We could go further in depth with this, but I think you're just beginning to get a glimpse of the possibilities here of having structure around big-time college football. Now, there are Title IX ramifications to this. There are conversations about what is going to happen to the schools that are not all in, to the schools that are not going to be involved in what will be, what do we think, 48 teams, Super 2? I've heard as many as 64. I don't know how you get to that number. I have a hard time believing we're going to get to that number. But per our conversation the last couple of weeks, you can start to see it a little bit clearer. There's a light at the end of the tunnel, perhaps. I've run long. It's Jeff Cameron Show 93.3, Real Talk Radio, Warchant TV. Back for more in a minute.
Your local news now.
The state is dedicating more resources to fight human trafficking. Florida currently ranks third in the country for the number of cases reported. The National Human Trafficking Hotline said more than 1,253 people across Florida were identified as victims of human trafficking in 2021. This week, Governor DeSantis signed a bill aimed at helping human trafficking survivors. Under the new law, the Florida Department of Law Enforcement will launch its own human trafficking hotline, 1-855-FLA-SAFE, on July 1st. By having a dedicated hotline, more potential victims could be rescued compared to relying on the national hotline. The law also raises the age someone can work in adult entertainment, like at a strip club, from 18 to 21. Even though the average trafficking victim is 13, this change will lead to fewer victims. Governor DeSantis said he plans to approve nearly $5 million to expand access to emergency beds for human trafficking survivors and provide more support staff when he signs the state's budget. This is Rachel Anay with your Real Talk 93.3 Local News Update, brought to you by Macklemore Systems, Tallahassee's go-to Mac store. Check them out online at MacklemoreSystems.com.
This is meteorologist Paul Trombley with your Real Talk 93.3 weather update. Mainly sunny skies this afternoon with daytime highs approaching 90. Winds out of the southeast 5 to 10 miles per hour. Mainly clear skies again tonight. Lows dip down to about 70. A blend of clouds and sun tomorrow. Highs level off around 90. A blend of clouds and sun and dry Friday and Saturday with highs in the low 90s. This report is brought to you by The Lawn Johns. For all your landscaping and lawn care needs, visit thelawnjohns.com. Right now, 82.
Hey, no fans, our partner ISF Inc. is a national management and IT consulting firm located right here in Tallahassee, Florida, solving the future for state governments through strategy, process, and technology. As a trusted advisor for state governments, ISF knows the importance of defining a clear and detailed strategy. Our friends at ISF can help your organization create a strategy that sets you on a path to success. ISF, your vision plus our expertise brings your brilliant ideas to life. Visit ISF.com to learn more. ISF, solving the future. There he is. Haven't seen this guy since, what was it? Oh, shoot. U2 at the Sphere in Las Vegas, baby.
Hey, how about that, man? Wasn't that fun?
Good show. Good show. Everything about it. Nearly perfect. Nearly perfect.
I had everything I could possibly want.
I wanted one thing, couldn't find it, and I looked everywhere. No Cubans.
What do you mean?
No Cubans.
There was Cubans.
No, I didn't see any Cubans.
Dude,
no.
I'm sure there was Cubans there. I mean, you know.
No, I walked around. There was a moment right before the show. I thought, got to find some Cubans. Nothing.
Dude, there's Cubans. There was Cubans. I'm sure there was Cubans.
In Las Vegas?
In Las Vegas.
No Cubans in Vegas.
There's Cubans in Vegas, man.
Eddie, there were no Cubans.
Chef.
The sandwich. There were no Cuban sandwiches. You're Cuban. Of course I know there were Cubans there.
Oh, the sandwich. Yeah, no, there probably wasn't many there in Vegas.
No Cubans.
No, not yet.
Gordo's, bringing the flavor and flair of Cuban food to Tallahassee since 1996.
The Jeff Cameron Show is a production of the Warchant.com multimedia network. Check out Warchant.com today for the latest news inside Florida State athletics. That's Warchant.com. Now, back to Jeff on Real Talk 93.3.
Our friends at Tried and True are prepared to help you start saving and making money. As a business owner, you get to choose between one of three offers. By the way, they're in town. They're in town this week. They'll be here for some time. Here are the three offers for you guys that are going to jump on board with my friends at Tried and True Consulting. $1,000 off a point of sale system. No gateway charges for 1 year or a free video menu or ad board when you become a Tried and True client. Offers being extended all the way through July 31st. So now through July 31st. Get in on the savings. Don't forget, though, 10% of the net revenue will go to the Battle's End. So 10% of what Tried and True makes go into the Battle's End. Call Don or Joe, 844-463-6653. That's 844-I'm-for-Noel for all the details. Tell them that you want the Jeff Cameron special, baby. Who doesn't want the Jeff Cameron special? I think if I had a Jeff Cameron special for a restaurant, I'd go one of two ways. Big fan of strawberry rhubarb pie, as you well know. So some sort of dessert with strawberry rhubarb pie. And then if I didn't do that, I don't know why, but I've always been a pretty big fan of the pot roast. My mother's pot roast in particular. So maybe there would be some sort of special with the pot roast. I hadn't thought about it until just right now that we're talking about Jeff Cameron Show specials. Here you go. Listen up to these numbers. This is this is something. And yet there are people out there who write about this sport for a living and continue to say outlandish things. I will read you one such outlandish thing here in a second. Okay. The number, $880 million. All right. Total revenue generated by the Big Ten in its most recent fiscal year. That ended June 30th, 2023. The conference distributed roughly $60.5 million to each of its 12 longest-standing schools. The SEC generated $853 million in revenue and shelled out $51.3 million to each of its 14 members. All right. So in the Big Ten, they're getting $60.5 million for their member institutions. In the SEC, they're getting $51.3. Big Ten leads the way in revenue distribution, and there will be more where that came from, by the way, because they're going to renegotiate their television deals. Hence the fight for assets and the best possible television deals. This is what we're hoping to cash in on. But even if you don't consider the fact that that number, that per team number, is going to be much bigger moving forward than it already is, just know those are the astronomical numbers they're already getting. Now, you've certainly seen that it pales in comparison to what schools or what the schools are getting in the ACC pales in comparison to those numbers. And that's why repeatedly I say I can't understand how it is that people wonder why FSU would be, in their eyes, many descriptors, some of which were disloyal, ungrateful. I like that one. Certainly many people in the world of college football who write about this ongoing saga have described Florida State as, at the very least, an irritant and seemingly the school, the singular school that best represents all that's wrong with the changing landscape of college football and the chase for the almighty dollar. Somehow, this, in spite of all of the evidence before them, you know, like Texas and Oklahoma leaving the Big 12 for the SEC, like, I don't know, Oregon, UCLA, USC, Washington, leaving for the Big 10. Schools leaving to better their own situation so that they're not left out in the cold, unable to compete. And yet, those numbers are just those numbers. We already know what that is, and we know what it represents. Facilities, salaries for coaches, more money by which to obviously facilitate more wins, more long-term success, better coaching staffs, more assistants and analysts, etc. Okay, we all know what that is. We're not so naive. And yet, guys like Stuart Mandel will write about a Florida State and what they think it means for schools like Clemson, us, North Carolina. In fact, I quote directly from the most recent mailbag, answering the question about how it's possible that Vanderbilt or Northwestern or schools like that would remain in a Power 2 when schools like Florida State or Clemson are left out, given their success rate, their overall cachet. In what world would that make any sense? His answer, as for Florida State and Clemson, not much sympathy here. No one forced them to sign the ACC's grant of rights when they did. And for all the hand-wringing, and this is the part I especially like, and for all the hand-wringing, there's no reason they can't continue to be viable national title contenders right where they are. What? He goes on to say that college sports are too unwieldy to ever be true meritocracies. Programs rise and fall, but the national brands have remained fairly entrenched for generation after generation. That part is true. The national brands have, in fact, remained entrenched for generation after generation. But that would be ignoring the seismic shift we're watching in college football currently. Rules changes, the lack of a governing body or a czar, astronomical sums being paid specifically to teams in two conferences as opposed to all the other conferences. You can't pretend that those things aren't unfolding right before your very eyes, and that they're not going to have a major impact on who wins national championships, or moreover, who has a chance to win national championships and who doesn't. And we just watched it play out. We just saw the conferences that curry the most favor due to television contracts, and that's only going to get worse. So you're damn right schools like Florida State and Clemson can no longer remain as viable national title contenders by sticking right where they are. Every year that they lose out to the tunes of $40 to $50 million annually on those they seek to compete with in their very own footprint is another year guaranteed that they'll be irrelevant. And the part I hate the most is I think that the people who write things like this know that. That's the part that I think that bothers me the most. They know that. They know that that is going to be the outcome. That the further on down the road we get, the more likely it is that the schools that aren't part of those big two can't compete at the highest level. Not consistently. Oh, there'll be an outlier here or there. And that outlier would likely be a school like Florida State because of their cachet. They may be able to overcome some of those massive shortcomings here or there because they have a brand, because it's an iconic brand. Maybe. But long-term, they would never be able to stack up and compete because of what's happened. Now, we don't have to like it, and nobody does. But it is foolhardy to pretend to lack an understanding or comprehension as to why these schools are looking out for their own best interests. The writing is on the wall. It's economics, and it's very obvious. It doesn't even have to be emotional and not be emotional. It doesn't have to be about where you went to school or I went to school or any of that stuff. It's just self-evident. It's just obvious to say that, they'll all be fine. Everybody will be fine. Really? You think so? Because I think you know better. Hour number 2 forthcoming. Stay with Jeff Cameron Show, 93.3, Real Talk Radio and Warchant TV.
Sarah here with Seminole Auto Glass. Hey, Greg.
Hey, what's up?
It's turkey season. Have you hit one yet?
A turkey? No.
Good for you, because we've seen more turkey suicides than anything lately.
Oh, no.
Yeah, we had a pretty foul morning.
Oh.
But our customers just went to Seminole Auto Glass and uploaded their insurance card. We got them back on the road with feathers flying in no time. Hey, Greg, which side of a turkey has more feathers? The outside.
Oh.
Better call Seminole.
Seminole Auto Glass. Call 850-539-4527.
Have you been injured on Interstate 10? I'm Jimmy Fasig of Fasig Brooks Law Offices. We've partnered with RoadProof to access all interstate traffic cameras along I-10 from Pensacola to Jacksonville. Let us help you get the proof you need to stand up for yourself and get fair compensation for your injuries. Call us today and let us secure the proof you need to come back stronger. Fasig Brooks, 850-777-7777. Offices Destin, Tallahassee, and Jacksonville.
Honey, I'm home.
We're in here, honey.
So why are all my friends here?
Have a seat, Dave. We need to talk about your problem.
Problem? I don't have a problem.
Dave, you do have a problem. A problem with your grill. Here's some pamphlets from Hearth and Patio. They are waiting for your call to help you upgrade your grill.
If you or someone you know needs a grilling intervention, call Hearth and Patio today at 850-727-4282. That's 850-727-4282 or hearthpatiotallahassee.com.
Hey man, have you heard the sound? The Talford Jewelry's the best in town. For rings, diamonds, earrings, bracelets, and more. And Talford Jewelry Store.
When was the last time you randomly did something nice for someone that means a lot to you? Now, I say this every day at the end of my show for everybody to be a better person today than you were yesterday. Well, one way to do that is to drop into Pentalpha and get a gift for someone who deserves it. It'll brighten their day, their week, maybe even their year. You don't have to wait for a holiday or special occasion, so don't wait to go check out a true local gem serving Tallahassee since 1988. Now, sing along with me, and I'll see you at Pentalpha.
nice price.
There's fun to be had every night at the Corner Pocket. Take home prizes on Trivia Tuesdays and Beer Bingo Thursdays. And kickstart your weekend with Martini Fridays. Plus happy hour runs every weekday and game day specials every time the Noles take the field. Watch all the best games at the Corner Pocket's Vegas Wall, featuring 560 inches of flat screen TV heaven.
Oh, really?
The best food, the best drinks, and the best place to watch all the games. Tallahassee loves the Corner Pocket.
Coming up next, more of the Jeff Cameron Show. Live and local on Real Talk 93.3. WVFT. Greta, Tallahassee.
The latest betting odds and live movements from Vegas. This is your action update. Now here are your latest lines from our guys in the desert.
Kyle Larson attempting to do the double, racing the Coca-Cola 600 and the Indy 500 in the same day on Sunday. He's a plus 450 favorite to win the Coca-Cola 600 at Charlotte, 7-1 to win the Indy 500. Scotty Scheffler plus 280. He's a favorite for the Charles Schwab Challenge at Colonial Country Club in Fort Worth. Palomar and Cow at 12-1. Baseball today, the Braves at Max Fried on the mound, $1.40 road favorite of the Cubs, plus 120, 8.5 flat at Wrigley Field. Ryan Pepio for the Rays today, $1.30 home favorite against Brian Bayo and the Red Sox, plus 110, 7.5 over at Tropicana Field. Get your free VSiN subscription right now at VSIN.com. For more sports betting news and information, go to VSIN.com. Mike Sennett, Real Talk 93.3.
I feel like I'm constantly cleaning hair off my bathroom floor. At least my Swiffer Sweeper makes it easy. Sweeper heavy-duty dry cloths have ultra-thick pads to trap and lock hairs, like a hair magnet. And when I'm finished cleaning up my hair, Sweeper takes care of his too. Now the hair's gone, all thanks to Swiffer. Try Swiffer Sweeper heavy-duty dry cloths. I promise you'll love them or your money back. And also try Swiffer Sweeper Wet to make quick work of tough, sticky messes.
It's one thing falling in love with a house, picturing yourself moving in and calling it home, and quite another navigating the world of price negotiating, mortgage lenders, and finding the budget that works best for you. An agent who's a realtor can make understanding that world easier. Realtors have the expertise, access to proprietary data, and tools to help you get from imagining living somewhere to actually doing it. That's the kind of help we can provide, because that's who we are. Realtors are members of the National Association of Realtors.
Widden Glass has been taking care of business since 1945. When you call Widden Glass, you're dealing with experienced, reliable professionals who offer only the best. Like Widden's top-of-the-line bath enclosures that provide style and luxury at an affordable price. Eye-catching storefronts are a specialty at Widden Glass. We'll help you design it and install it. Widden Glass, the first name in glass replacement. Call 222-5781.
Barry knows cool. He's keeping you comfortable. Barry knows cool. You can get into the test.
Your heating and air conditioning system doesn't check with you before it takes a break. That's why we're always ready to help. Any day, anytime, anywhere. And with our annual service agreement, there are no overtime charges. Ever. At Verno Heating and Air, we will always be there for you.
Barry knows heating and air conditioning.
License CAC 1816186.
Science-backed, technology-tracked, and coach-led. Hey, Jeff Cameron here. You've heard me rave about the benefits of Orange Theory Fitness and the proven track record of science-backed interval training. Well, now Orange Theory Fitness has done it again, adding more ways for you to improve your health and look your best. In addition to the always great standard workouts, OTF has added Tread 50 and Strength 50. For those in the mood to just lift for an afternoon or attack those cardio goals for the day. Take the guesswork out of exercise. Make sure you're getting the most out of each and every workout. Orange Theory Fitness, location Midtown Tallahassee and Village Square Boulevard.
Real Talk fact number 44. Banging your head against the wall for 1 hour burns 150 calories. This is Real Talk 93.3, Tallahassee's Real Talk station.
This is Brian Kilmeade, and I'm excited to be on the air in the capital city. Be sure to tune into my show. I'll be giving you all the latest news, information, and the truth you demand. The Brian Kilmeade Show is live from 9 till noon, right here on Real Talk 93.3.
Broadcasting live from Florida's capital city. This is the Jeff Cameron Show, brought to you by Orange Theory Fitness on Real Talk 93.3. Now, stop what you're doing and listen closely. It's time for the Jeff Cameron Show in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Warchant TV, thanks for tuning to it. How you doing? How you doing on a Ballsmic Wednesday, everybody? I'm Jeff. Thanks for listening in, hanging out with me for a couple of hours. Appreciate it very, very, very much. This hour brought to you by our friends at Zaxby's. Deliciousness. 77 Zaxby's in Tallahassee. Golden brown nuggets of deliciousness. Yes, and the Texas toast. Don't forget about the Texas toast. Thank you, Zaxby's. Thank you, Danny. Thank you for your support of the Jeff Cameron Show and all that we do here. You guys swing on by. Convenient, tasty, delicious. And Denny's a 19-plus year Golden Chief booster for Florida State Athletics. All things Florida State. At an ever-changing time, those kinds of boosters, those kinds of supporters for Florida State are going to make the difference. You know, it's funny. Front Row Knowles was on before I came on. And I was listening. I saw Tom Block yesterday, and it was my great pleasure to see the consummate professional that is Tom Block, amongst others that I respect professionally that I saw yesterday. And I was thinking about this. I was thinking about, just the history of this job and their careers and people that I've worked with and Florida State athletics in particular. What a weird time this is. But Tom was mentioning, I think, on Front Row Knowles just before I got in here to the booth to sit down and run the board and do my thing, that he noted, and Keith Jones, who I also get along with swimmingly, great Knoll, that Mike Norvell has been very, very effusive with his praise for his team. That this tour, this booster tour, this opportunity to go throughout the state. I know he's gone and talked to a lot of you in various communities, those of you tuned in currently, and in that time, he's referenced how excited he is about individual players, but he's also talked a lot about the team as a whole and how excited he is, how much he likes this team. And he's gotten specific in some cases. Darius Washington, for example, he said he thinks he has a chance to be an All-American left tackle. Wow. I thought to myself, that's rather amazing that you think about all that Florida State lost to the NFL draft, and yet your head coach is over the moon. I think in some ways, and I'm kind of kicking this around, I do think it's genuine. I think he is genuinely excited about what they are. I keep going back because we've had to do so many exercises. We had to submit our preseason top 40 players. You've heard us talk about this a lot on the various shows. And we thought as a staff that this might be the most difficult run that we've had trying to put together this list, because you have to allow for a greater degree of uncertainty and discrepancy, right? Like, there are guys who I think athletically could take a massive leap forward between the spring and the fall just by getting bigger and stronger, and the confidence that comes with that the athleticism is there, but that added strength, that added size would lead to better durability and more confidence. And that is true, by the way. You can watch a guy who's a 4'4" guy, right? Might be a 38-inch vertical guy, may have great hands, but he's slight. And that same athlete, who by those measurements is an upper crust athlete, gets out to practice, and as soon as they go full pads, a couple of welcome to the show moments happen, and they're not as confident, they're not as strong, they're not as consistent. They're well aware of their surroundings at that point, and that can be very negative. And then you watch one off season, and a guy comes in and he had that growth spurt. He put on some of that man weight between his freshman year and, say, sophomore year, and the next thing you know, and he's gotten after it with Coach Storms, and they figured it out, and he's been eating like crazy and all the right things with the nutritionist, and he's added 10 pounds, and it's 10 pounds. It's good weight. It's 10 pounds of muscle. And all of a sudden, they're able to give a little bit more than they're getting. And the confidence that comes with that. And you watch a guy take off. And I've had conversations with our coaching staff about this. Alex Atkins has talked about this. He says he sees it the most with offensive linemen because you're talking about horses. You're talking about hosses, big-ass dudes all across the board, right? And they're going against big-ass dudes. And these are guys that can play with leverage at 320 pounds, and they get low, and they're in some cases they've got – I remember talking to Big Meech about what an eye-opening experience it was for him to have to go against Fabo. And he said, the first time he encountered a healthy Fabo, he went, well, this is different. This is different. This guy's huge. He plays low, and he's long. Usually you get, one or the other. You get a big guy who doesn't have great bend. You get a guy maybe doesn't have a great length, maybe not nearly as explosive. And then all of a sudden you get to this level and you get an upperclassman across from you, and he's all of those things, and you're overwhelmed, and you realize you've got a long ways to go. I love watching from a spring to a fall those leaps. It happens all the time. And there are a lot of candidates this year for Florida State to take a big leap and be better than we saw them in the spring. I don't know if that is a singular thing that Mike is in particular excited about and why he's so bullish on this team, or if it's sort of the diversity and depth of talent, because that's really the difference between this team and last year's team. You had so many known commodities a year ago, including a veteran quarterback that was probably in the eyes of many coming into his own and getting a better grasp on the passing aspects of this offense. And we already knew that he possessed explosiveness. Now, we could not have known that he was largely going to eschew running the football in the same manner that he had the year before. That version of Jordan was a real problem for people because you could have everything covered and you gave up 18 yards on a fleet-of-foot scramble as a play broke down, and then you had to line up and do it all over again, and that got exhausting. And we watched the "Are you kidding me?" play happen many times in critical moments of games in Jordan's previous season. He did it a few times last year on the road at Clemson in that second quarter, kept the team alive, no doubt. And I think Jordan was a very, very good player last year, but he wasn't all of the things that we thought he would be. That said, it's not a knock. It's just understanding that they had a very good defense for the first time in Norvell's time here. He knew that they could win games that way. They needed to keep the quarterback protected. They needed to keep the quarterback healthy, obviously. They didn't have many other options behind him that they felt comfortable with. That became readily apparent as the year went on, and they did all that they could to kind of keep him in the pocket. Jordan wasn't going to keep. He was going to give. You know how that was going to go. I don't think that's the case this year. I do think it's the case that they feel like they have a diversified stable of running backs that can do many different things. I think they know they've added a lot of speed. And so while the starting 22 of this football team may not be the known commodity that the starting 22 was a year ago, they can diversify this. They can give you more looks, and they have more plus players coming off the bench for spells of those starting 22 that will allow them, I think, to be more consistent. I do think stylistically it's going to be a much different football team. We've talked about that before. In that, if you frame it in that light, I do want to point out that when we were doing the top 40 list, I was sure this time around, I've taken shots at kickers and punters my whole life, right? But it's not lost on me the importance that those guys be a big part of your success, flip field position, make kicks in the red zone, etc. Changes games. I get it. It's going to really matter, I think, this year, because I think they're going to seek to wear people down. And if you're going to seek to wear people down, then that means you're going to rely on your defense to get stops early in games, obviously, keep you around, not have you come out of your game plan, which I think is going to be to run downhill, bludgeon people, throw off a play action with a big arm and a whole bunch of speed that you brought in the way of transfer portal players. So all of a sudden stretching the field is not nearly as difficult as it was, and your offensive line, in particular in the interior, should be much better. Much better. So you added girth, to say the least, on the interior. Running downhill, yes, please. I think that's the way Mike wants to win. I think he believes he has the personnel to do it. I think he's downright giddy because of it. And I think he has a receptive quarterback who wants to take a huge leap forward and has a quarterback coach in Tony Tokars that has proven himself, have a track record now. How about that? Tony's got a track record now of getting the most out of guys, improving guys, seeing incremental growth from guys, connecting with quarterbacks, connecting with them early on. It starts with the fundamentals, he once told me. From there, we begin to talk about more aspects of playing the position. But if you don't have the footwork and you don't have the throwing motion and you don't have the basics down, I can't get into the nuances of the offense and what you like and don't like, because I need you to be able to do the basic things that I require of all quarterbacks. He has a philosophy. He's growing up as a coach. It's connecting. You've heard Jordan and others talk about that. All right, you've got that. Then you have the offensive mind that is Mike Norvell. And I think DJ already told us that that's the reason he chose Florida State, is that upon looking at all of the offenses, he really liked what Mike Norvell did for quarterbacks, did for offensive players. And I think that now you've got a coach. I'm careful the way I describe it, because I do not want to sound like I'm taking shots at Jordan. I just think the circumstances have changed, and there is a revenge factor to this year that I think Mike's got an intensity and a fire and an anger and a focus that any one of us we would like to think would have after what happened a year ago, to prove to everybody that the last you saw of Florida State was nothing close to that Florida State team. It was not emblematic, representative of a 13-0 team that had all of those players get drafted, because, of course, none of the players that were drafted played the damn game against Georgia at the end. Conveniently left out by our greatest critics. Not to mention the emotional toll of having been bent over by I don't want to relitigate all that. So there's a fire, there's an anger, there's a sense of being able to run a football and be more physical. There's a sense of a quarterback that is seeking real growth, he's got to put it on tape, doesn't he? The thing about DJ is he's enormous, right? You look at NFL quarterbacks, there are a lot of guys like that are just big dudes. Well, the game's changed a lot in the NFL, so you can win and not have that. But he is your quintessential prototypical 6'5". Now you throw in that size, he's bigger than most. Big old arm. Inconsistent as a passer when it comes to accuracy. Somewhat in the past inconsistent with his footwork. I think he recognizes, DJU does, that this is the opportunity with a guy that his offensive acumen I respect. I think the quarterback coach is going to get me where I need to be technically. I've got a program that's on the come, that's on the rise, that's hungry. I can see why he wanted to be here. Florida State had options. Lots of people wanted to be here. Florida State had options. DJU really wanted it here. And ever since he's arrived, he and his father and others have spoken at length about the sort of family atmosphere and the togetherness that seems and feels different currently. And that's great to hear. I love when players say that. It's a good recruiting tool. I don't know. I'm not at other places. I'm sure there are some really great atmospheres and locker rooms at other places too. It's not solely indicative of Florida State, but it does seem to be consistently stated by those that have come through from other programs to this one. So you can lend credence to a lot of those comments because you have a multitude of players that have said it from a variety of institutions: Georgia, Alabama, LSU, Western Michigan, Albany. We go on down the list, just myriad programs, players, offense, defense, all saying that thing. I tend to believe it when I hear things like that. I guess what I'm trying to define is why it is the head coach is so giddy about this team. I get it when you're on the road and you're speaking to boosters and you're talking to Florida State supporters of any kind, that you're not there to be Debbie Downer. Mike's a passionate guy. He's going to speak with a lot of passion, so that's going to be the norm anyhow. But Mike is very careful in the way that he speaks about players or practices or teams or expectations. We've learned that he's very understanding of how powerful those words are, the messages being sent to players, the messages being sent to fans and donors. Mike was careful not to overextend expectations. Early on in his time at Florida State, Mike didn't give you any of the over-the-top, we're going to win 10, 12 games this year talk early on. He knew better. He knew that the roster wasn't equipped to do so. He knew that it was a rebuild. He knew that it was going to take some time. I think he's likely exceeded his greatest expectations in terms of the relative quickness of the turnaround. I think he probably thought it was going to take longer. Point is, when this team was capable of losing to Jacksonville State, Mike wasn't telling people before the year that they were going to win 10 games. You want to underpromise and overdeliver. He gets that. So I do think it's telling when he consistently stop, and he knows reporters are there. He knows that many of these things are being recorded. He knows the things that he's saying are going to get back to his team and they're going to be reported upon. If every time you have an opportunity to talk about your team, at no point do you say, well, I really love this, and this. This is going to take a little time. We're really good here. We've got to find somebody here. He's not doing that. Segment by segment by segment, he's saying, oh, I really like this team. I think you're going to like what we bring out there. I really like this team. I think he's got a sense of who they are. Teams reveal that to you, I've been told by coaches, in those practices leading up to the first game. Somewhere along the way, you'll get an idea of how you have to win games, what your personnel means to you, what it can mean from a play calling standpoint, a game planning standpoint. You still learn more once you actually start playing games. Obviously, the greatest jump they talk about is between game 1 and game 2, because a lot of what you're learning in practice is the blueprint for success. Then the game happens and people tell you more things about them, some good, some bad, right? Lights come on. All of a sudden you find out this guy's a lot better than we've seen in practice. Other guys shrink. So you learn a little bit and you adjust accordingly. But here we sit. By the time we go on the air next week after the holiday, we'll be in the 80s in terms of days until the start of college football. Everything ratcheted up, pushed forward because of the trip to Ireland. And I think that we're getting more giddy all the time with the rhetoric. And I don't mean rhetoric as a negative term. I just mean it for literally what it is, right? Mike's rhetoric has me pumped. He likes this squad. I dare say he loves this squad, and that feels like a secret. Now, remember the last time there was a secret? It was Jimbo Fisher before Florida State Clemson on the road when we demolished the Tigers on our way to a national championship, and Jimbo saying to me on a Sunday the week before the game, I can't wait until we go there to play. I can't wait to show the world what we are. And I remember being giddy. I lost all objectivity whatsoever. The Noel and me came to the surface, and I wanted to say that on that Monday show, and he asked me not to. And I remember thinking, okay, well, this is going to be fun. Because he was certain that the very ass-kicking that was delivered that night was indeed going to happen, and he knew it the week before. He knew it and couldn't wait to reveal it. Jeff Cameron Show 93.3, Real Talk Radio, and Warchant TV.
You probably already know that Pinch a Penny Pools and Spas is your one-stop destination for all pool maintenance needs, offering everything you need from chemicals, cleaners, vacuums, nets, and more. But that's not all. Pinch a Penny also carries a huge selection of premium hot springs hot tubs paired with easy financing options, making these luxury hot tubs affordable for everyone. And if you have an older hot tub and you're worried about the hassle of removing it, worry no more. Pinch a Penny will not only remove and haul away your old hot tub, but also offer a trade-in value for a credit towards your new one. So why wait? Visit Pinch a Penny's 12,000 square foot showroom today on Greer Road and discover how effortless and affordable owning a fantastic hot tub can be. Find out more at TallahasseeHotSpring.com. That's TallahasseeHotSpring.com.
I'm Caleb. I'm the lawn supervisor at Paul's Termite and Pest Control, and I really do love my job. Paul's has created an incredible work environment that always puts our customers' needs first. Their needs are our concerns, and my particular job of improving the health of North Florida lawns is something I truly enjoy. I'm an outdoor person, and I get to be outside all day, watching the lawns run through the stages full of weeds to weedless to lush, grass-filled landscapes is very rewarding. I'm proud to represent Paul's.
I'm Jay. Having the privilege to work with people like Caleb and all of our employees is truly an honor. There is no doubt that the staff of Paul's Termite and Pest Control is the best in our industry. All of our people are local, and local really does mean something. We are North Floridians. Our kids go to school here. We shop here. We build relationships here, and we honor our commitments. To all of our customers, thanks for trusting us to protect your family, pets, and home.
For the elimination of termites, any other pests, and a greener lawn too, call Paul's. We'll get them all.
Social Kitchen is now open on Cary Forest Parkway near Ology Northside, Tallahassee's only premier market where you can receive the famed Snake River Farm steaks and premier meats. Social Kitchen also has chef-prepared meals and sides ready to serve in just under 20 minutes. Perfect for those very busy springtime weeks, weekends, you name it. Hosting some people at the house. Hey, Social Kitchen also has build-your-own charcuterie boards and catering. Stop in and visit Social Kitchen today or visit us online at socialkitchentlh.com. socialkitchentlh.com. Hey, let me tell you about my friends at Tried and True Consulting, a Seminole-owned business that specializes in payments and business solutions. Tried and True's core expertise includes card, ACH, point of sale, mobile, e-commerce, and hosted payment solutions. Tried and True will help you reduce costs and increase your bottom line. That always sounds nice. Whether you're a retailer, restaurant, licensed professional, or service industry, Tried and True is saving you money. Tried and True's expertise extends to payroll, video menu ad boards, IT services, web design, and social media. It's time to make one call and tell the competition to take it on down the road. Call Don or Joe today at 844-464-6653. That's 844-464-6653. When you do business with Tried and True, they contribute 10% of the net revenue to the battle's end. So go Tried and True today. Call 844-464-6653. Science-backed, technology-tracked, and coach-led. Hey, Jeff Cameron here. You've heard me rave about the benefits of Orange Theory Fitness and the proven track record of science-backed interval training. Well, now Orange Theory Fitness has done it again, adding more ways for you to improve your health and look your best. In addition to the always great standard workouts, OTF has added Tread 50 and Strength 50. For those in the mood to just lift for an afternoon or attack those cardio goals for the day. Take the guesswork out of exercise. Make sure you're getting the most out of each and every workout. Orange Theory Fitness, location Midtown Tallahassee and Village Square Boulevard.
The Jeff Cameron Show is a production of the Warchant.com Multimedia Network. Check out Warchant.com today for the latest news inside Florida State athletics. That's Warchant.com. Now, back to Jeff on Real Talk 93.3.
Lee writes, I'm looking forward to your thoughts after fall camp on this team. Reminds me of your call just prior to the LSU game. Yeah. That was fun. We have the Ireland game to look forward to, but I wish we had another LSU game. We've had so much fun with that game. This will be fun too. This is one of those things. You get things wrong. I thought our offensive line would be something it wasn't last year, so I get a lot wrong. Get my fair share of things that'll be right, and everything in between where it's a little gray area. I said at the end of the year, despite knowing what was about to go to the NFL, what would be drafted or how many people would be drafted or thereabouts, that I still thought this team was potentially a playoff team. I also said I thought the offense – and maybe I should have worded this differently. I think I said I thought the offense could be better. I want to give you a background on that. I guess I could have said more consistent. And a big part of that was that offense was riddled with injury. from the halfway point on. So some of it was completely out of their control. Like they just didn't even, even some of the guys that they had playing each week were a shell of themselves. And it was still good enough to do what they needed to do, but it wasn't, obviously by the end of the year, they were kind of limping across the finish line with all the injuries, including that of Jordan Travis. But the defense rose up and showed what a special team they were and should have had the opportunity to play in the game that Alabama played, because Lord knows we saw their quarterback suck to high heaven and put together nothing short of god-awful numbers against Michigan, which I dare say almost anybody could have done. But that didn't happen. And what did happen was early in the year, electrifying moments and an offense, obviously, against LSU. Now, you found out later on LSU's defense wasn't any good, so you had to recognize that. But when you added it all up, one of the reasons I thought that this upcoming team's offense has a chance to be better is I do think that that added speed is going to help change the way that defenses play Florida State. I think that you got to force defenses to have to cover every quadrant of the field, and you've got to force defenses to play you honest. And I don't think they had to last year. A lot of defenses, especially those with plus talent, like Clemson, for example, they just put their corners in man and said, I don't think you guys have any receivers that can run past us. Like, I really don't think that you've got receivers that are going to run by our corners and win a lot of one-on-one matchups. And, Johnny Wilson got hurt, missed 2.5 games, and was kind of a shell of himself for 2 others. Obviously, once Keon got hurt, he was never a burner, but he got slowed considerably with his injuries. He just didn't really have any consistency there in terms of being able to stretch the field. And so teams recognized that, and they took away a lot of things because they didn't have to respect the down the field element of your offense. And I also think Jordan, quite frankly, played better the year before than he did last year. I think there are a lot of reasons for that. Some of that is not all on him. It's hard to be consistently good as a quarterback if you're one-dimensional, if you're not able to run the ball consistently, if you constantly lose first down, if you have way too many negative plays, that is to say 3 yards or less, if you're behind the chains as frequently as Florida State was last year, it's going to be hard to be consistent. But I don't think he was as good last year or as dynamic last year as he had been. And so I think that if this offensive line is better than it was a year ago, and there's every reason to believe that it will be, especially with the 2 big-ass guards you brought in here to help move people. And that is a running back room that is diversified. It's got a whole lot of anything you want. You want speed? They got it. You want size? They got it. You got guys that catch the ball out of the backfield that can line up in the slot. Lawrence Toafili can do. You got guys that can play it any way you want to play it. You have talent at tight end. I think Morlock could be very, very, very good. You don't have inline blocking tight ends, which is a concern. Landon Thomas may make an impact on this team right off the bat. I will tell you, in spring camp, he was a magnificent receiver, and he's a big kid. So he's already in a position to do some things there. But I don't think in year 1 it's fair to expect him to be a significant help in blocking. But that doesn't mean that you can't line up big and bring out an extra offensive lineman and decide to just bully people, which I think in some cases they're going to do. And I want to get back to that other point that I never finished because I got sidetracked. Having Mastromano go into a season where, this is a guy that can be a Ray Guy finalist and is a player that can flip field position. If you've got a very good defense, and I think they will have a very good defense, and you've got a really good punter, you're going to make people have to go the distance on you a little bit more than they would like. And that allows you to not have to come out of your game plan. And if your game plan is to bludgeon people running the football and throw off a play action, and you don't have to come out of that because you're not down 14-0, well, buddy, then you have an identity. And that identity, by the way, travels. Defense travels, running the football travels. You are, in that case, removing some uncertainty that affect especially young kids or young men. Pros, anymore, we watch pros. They go win on the road all the time. It's funny. You watch it in the NBA. Home court hasn't meant anything. People go on the road, win games all the damn time. Back in the day, the percentage of teams that played a game 7 at home that lost was minimal. It was always shocking to watch somebody lose at home in a game 7. Not anymore. Nowadays, people just roll on in and beat your ass in a Game 7. It's crazy. And you see it in baseball. It's never really mattered. Home field advantage is your next day starter, basically. That's all that was. And in the NFL, go look at the teams that win on the road all the time. But in college football, it is much more difficult to go win on the road if the talent levels are even close. Because I think, again, as I like to say, kids are subject to the whims of emotion, and they get flustered because they're not pros. Not pros. And they get flustered. When you begin, it gets built up and it gets louder, and then the blood's in the water, and you watch kids just fall to pieces. But that happens less when you're physical. It happens less when you run the ball, you possess the ball, you flip field position with a really good punter, and you play good defense. Now you can stay within yourself and be completely comfortable with what you're trying to do. And I kind of think that's what this is going to be. Now, there are years, and Mike has done this before. We saw him do it at Memphis, and he started to do it a little bit last year here. Once we realized last year that you couldn't line up and run the ball the way that you wanted to run the ball, you might remember last year I was on the air by about week 3 going, do we want to just spread it out and go 5 wide here and get in the shotgun and sling it all over the lot? Like, I kind of trust Jordan Travis to make the at-line read, pre-snap read, and at the time, before all the injuries began to mount, you had weapons galore, and you're kind of like, just spread everybody out. Because here's what's going to happen. Let's say a free rusher gets at Jordan Travis. I trust he's going to make a miss and extend the play, and then you're going to make plays. And, teams are going to have to be very cautious. The personnel kind of lend itself to that for a short period of time before the injuries, where you thought you could just play fast and try to get as many reps as possible and spread it out and just boom, go, let's go. But I don't think that's what this team is at all. And I think he's going to change the way that he calls the game and plays the game on offense. And I think as he gets older, and funny, a lot of coaches do this, man, because it travels and because it's at the root and core of the game itself. And that is, if you have the personnel, most teams don't. If you have the personnel to bludgeon people, I don't know of a coach that doesn't want to do that. Emasculated defense. There's nothing more disheartening than giving up the run. It's just the most disheartening thing imaginable, just time and again. Now, I understand it. The more efficient way to run offense in the modern game, with the rules being what they are, is to throw the football. I got that. And the game has changed in that way an awful lot. But some of that is because most teams don't have the personnel to efficiently run the ball and beat you up. If you do, and we might this year, I think most coaches prefer it. And I'm old school. I'm 52 years old. I'm fond of watching people run downhill, truck people, emasculate people, line up 2nd and 6 and be like, we're running the ball. I'm going to run it again. I don't think you can stop us from getting 4 yards. Here comes 3rd and 2. You going to play downhill? Yeah, I'll probably run the ball again, but I might not. May play action your ass. And here comes a touchdown. I mean, that is fun to me. If you have the personnel.
Your local news now.
A house went up in flames Sunday in Tallahassee, killing 2 dogs. A little after 11:30 a.m. Sunday, firefighters were dispatched to a residential fire located on Lake Atkinson Drive. Crews arrived on scene and found heavy fire coming from the home and quickly began extinguishing the fire. The cause of the fire appeared to have been from unattended cooking. Firefighters searched the home and found no people inside. However, TFD said 2 dogs did pass away in the fire. No injuries were reported on the scene. 1 man is dead after a shooting at a gas station. Officials reported the incident happened just before 11 p.m. Friday. The man was shot at the Circle K near the intersection of Monroe Street and Shearer Road. He was pronounced deceased at the scene. Investigation is open and active. Police ask anyone with information about the incident to call 850-891-4200, or you can also remain anonymous by calling Crime Stoppers at 850-574-TIPS. This is Rachel Anay with Real Talk 93.3 Local News Update, brought to you by Macklemore Systems, Tallahassee's go-to Mac store. Check them out online at MacklemoreSystems.com.
This is meteorologist Paul Trombley with your Real Talk 93.3 weather update. Mainly sunny skies this afternoon with daytime highs approaching 90. Winds out of the southeast, 5 to 10 miles per hour. Mainly clear skies again tonight. Lows dip down to about 70. A blend of clouds and sun tomorrow. Highs level off around 90. A blend of clouds and sun and dry Friday and Saturday with highs in the low 90s. This report is brought to you by the Lawn Johns. For all your landscaping and lawn care needs, visit thelawnjohns.com. Right now, it's 84 degrees.
Hey, no fans, our partner ISF Inc. is a national management and IT consulting firm located right here in Tallahassee, Florida, solving the future for state governments through strategy, process, and technology. As a trusted advisor for state governments, ISF knows the importance of defining a clear and detailed strategy. Our friends at ISF can help your organization create a strategy that sets you on a path to success. ISF, your vision plus our expertise brings your brilliant ideas to life. Visit ISF.com to learn more. ISF, solving the future. There is no Bigfoot, Eddie. Would you stop with that nonsense?
There's a Bigfoot, Jeff.
I wish there were. By the way, I don't want you to point to me as the guy that takes all the fun out of the room. I wish there was the Loch Ness Monster. I wish there was the Bigfoot. I wish there was the Chupacabra. All the things.
They're all mythical except for the Bigfoot. The Sasquatch.
The Bigfoot?
The Bigfoot. There's big feet. There's lots of them.
So like different, breeds, like different kinds.
There's like, families. There's different families. And,
so there's if they're in the snow, you call them a Sasquatch.
Or the Yeti, right?
Yep,
and then here in Florida, that's a skunk ape. And, I've
never heard that one. By the way, why do you think it's real? We would have found them by now.
They're the hide and seek champions of the world. Nobody finds the Bigfoot.
I think you believe in Bigfoot.
I do believe in Bigfoot.
You don't believe.
I believe in Bigfoot.
Don't tell anybody you believe in Bigfoot.
I would go look for Bigfoot, but he scares me.
Gordo's, bringing the flavor and flair of Cuban food to Tallahassee since 1996.
The Jeff Cameron Show, brought to you by Orange Theory Fitness. 2 Tallahassee locations, Midtown on Thomasville Road and Northside in the Village Common Shopping Center. Online at orangetheoryfitness.com.
Rolling on Big River. Saw this today. You guys know, or at least you have known over the years, my penchant for discovering things I wish I could, I should say. Discovering things that end up being worth millions of dollars at some garage sale or somebody coming across their uncle's baseball card collection that happens to have a freaking Honus Wagner in it. Guy goes from making a fireman's salary to being a multimillionaire because his great-grandfather left that card in the attic of the barn out back somewhere at a Jersey farm. I remember the story we talked about on the air where somebody bought a painting. They didn't even care about the painting. They just loved the frame. They got home, had the frame. They ripped out the painting that was in the frame because they want to put their painting in the frame. And then they saw there was something behind the painting. They look in the painting. And it's like a second copy of the Constitution or some nonsense like that. And it's worth $100 million. So I love those stories. Read this today. Not a big memorabilia guy. I have some cool pieces over the years, most of which were just given to me by people who were kind and just knew that, I had a Bucks fan recently come up to the corner pocket. We were having a listener appreciation party, a Libations Friday get together, and this guy had stuff from the 70s autographed by Leroy Selman and Giles and Jim. I mean, it was amazing, right? Things like that over the years. I've got Pirates memorabilia that some people have sent me just knowing that I would cherish it. Plenty of Knowles stuff. But I'm not an avid collector. The jersey worn by Babe Ruth when he called his shot before hitting a home run in Game 3 of the 1932 World Series is going up for auction in August. It last sold in 2005. What do you guys think it sold for? 2005. 1932 Babe Ruth jersey, World Series called shot jersey. Well, it sold for under $1 million at that time. That kind of piqued my interest, and why I read on. It is now expected to go for as much as $30 million. Here's the deal, the difference. In 2005, it was confirmed to have been from the 1932 season, was only suspected, quote unquote, of being the one that Ruth wore when he hit that home run in the series. Since then, it has been definitively authenticated to be the very same jersey. Quote, a couple of things that helped this jersey stand out from previous seasons says, you wonder how people get these jobs, right? How do you get this job? This guy who said that, his name is Jim Montague. He is the vice president of McGray's Authentication Services. Over the years, I've said I would like to be a consultant. I'm not sure what consultants do other than make a lot of money for just telling people things they probably already knew about their job, their employees, the business they were in, and they're flown in to do so. And they make the most of a company credit card and eat well. I'd like that to be me someday. But if not that, I would also like to be, I suppose, the vice president of authentication. Okay. I know there's an expertise. I'm sure. I just don't know how one goes down that path. Are you 16 years old? You're an avid baseball card collection, and you say, you know, that is definitely an original Mickey Mantle. You know how I know that? Anyhow, it'd be kind of fun. How the Y was positioned on the front of the jersey in relationship to the buttons and the placket on the jersey, Montague said. Went on to say that photography from Game 3 of the 1932 World Series aligned with nuances of Ruth's New York Yankees jersey. He pointed out a small notch in the N in New York, almost as if it wasn't completely straight. The top of the W, he said, had the curve as opposed to the flat edge. Other images we saw from other years had a flat edge. The E, he said, had a sort of bend at the bottom. Why did I read that to you? Why did I bring any of this up? Well, think of the lucky SOB that in 2005 bought this damn jersey suspecting that it was the indeed Babe Ruth 32 called shot World Series jersey. Couldn't prove it, paid under $1 million for it, now has had it authenticated as being the exact jersey Ruth wore on that day through an authentication process that includes the scouring of photography from the 32 World Series, only to be told that when you put this back up for auction, you're going to make more than $30 million. Son of a... Man! You just know the amount of ball busting he received when he paid $700,000 for that jersey that couldn't be proven to be Babe's. And now all this time later, he's like, what's up now, bitches? 700,000 is going to turn into over 30 million in just under 20 years. That works. And yes, like so many stories preceding this one, I read it with extreme envy. It also sent me down the path that it always sends me down, which is scouring the interwebs for stories of great finds like this. Socks, cleats, bats, gloves, footballs, helmets, gloves. I said gloves. I do it every time, and there's no shortage. It happens all the time. Somebody's always going out to their Uncle Merle's garage. Oh, what's this, Dad? Well, that was your Uncle Merle's. I don't know. Have you opened it? It's an old duffel bag. Yeah, but it looks like there's something in it. We'll open it. Oh, look at this. Baseball signed by the 27 Yankees in pristine condition. Hasn't seen the light of day. No fadage on the signatures. I wonder what this is worth. Damn it. One of these days, that's going to be me. For those of you who had to do as James B. did, and Corey often does, and many others do, there's no questioning your passion for Florida State baseball and your love of university, because I saw where many of you early in the show today said that you couldn't continue to watch the game as things began to unfold in the ninth yesterday, when 8-1 became 8-6, and when 12-6 became 12-9 with ducks on the pond. You had to get up and walk around. And I'll tell you that normally I would kind of laugh at that, because I'd like to think I've gotten to a place where, especially it's an ACC tournament game, I can watch and just go, it'll be all right. Or if it's not a regional. I get that way where it's win or go home. I get that way where your season's on the line and the stakes are really high. De La Soul. But I didn't get that way with the ACC game yesterday against Georgia Tech. I figured we'd get that third and final out. Got uncomfortable, began to get real uncomfortable, but not enough to get up and turn the TV off or flip the channel, then flip back to the game as many people do, or whatever superstition you might have. But just as I was judging that and having fun at your expense in my mind, laughing about that, what happens last night? The Pirates down 6-2, and you don't have to care about the Pirates. You'll understand the sort of circumstances. Pirates down 6-2 in the ninth with one out, nobody on. I'm laying in bed at the end of the evening, watching that and watching the end of the Celtics-Indiana Pacers game. And I'm watching my Buccos and thinking, well, it's a loss game one of the series against San Francisco. Damn it, man. Wish that wasn't the case, but such is life. But then we get a runner on. Then there's a walk. Then there's a single. It's 6-3. Then there's an error. It's 6-4. Then it's 6-5 with 2 outs and O'Neal Cruz coming to the plate. At which point he hits a ball 121 plus miles per hour into the corner for a double to tie the game with 2 outs in the ninth. And just like that, your battling Buccos have gone from 4 down in the ninth to 6-all. And my poor slumbering wife has to hear as I'm dancing around like we just won the World Series. So I'm no better. I'm certainly no better. I'm the guy that's just like you, nervously, anxiously awaiting either a collapse or an upset win or a shocking turnaround. And I celebrated as such. Couldn't go back to sleep. Couldn't get to sleep. Was just that kind of pumped up. What are you going to do? Baseball does that, but sports do that. That's a good thing. It's probably why we keep coming back.
It's time for, how you say, with the pitching, probables?
Twins and Nats, they're in the 7th. It's 2-0 Minnesota. Well-pitched game, and I should say Minnesota. Mets on top of Cleveland in the 6th. It's 3-0. I should have mentioned to you that is Simeon, Woods, Richardson, Jake Irvin, Quintana, Tristan McKenzie. Baltimore up 3-0 on St. Louis. That game is John Means, Kyle Gibson. Angels, Astros. A lot of day baseball today. Nothing in the 3rd inning. Tyler Anderson, former Bucco. Hunter Brown going for the Stros. The Tigers and Royals, they're in the 3rd inning. Tariq Skubal, Cole Reagans. Come on, Cole. Padres, Reds, no score. That's tonight, 6:40. That's why there's no score. Michael King, Nick Martinez. Aforementioned battle in Buccos. Got my man Jared Jones going tonight. If you haven't seen him pitch, tune in. Should be fun, 6:40. He's good. He's a rook. 289, 63 strikeouts. Going against Blake Snell, who, shockingly for San Francisco, so far this year has been awful. 0-3 with an 11.57. That'll hurt your feelings. Rangers, Phillies, Dane Dunning, 3-2 with a 4.10. That's Tawan Walker for the Phillies, 3-0, 4.31. Brewers, Marlins, Freddie Peralta, Jesus Luzardo. Did you guys know the Marlins are 16-34? Woo. Red Sox, Rays, Brian Bello, Ryan Peapot. Mariners, Yankees, Bryce Miller, Nestor Cortez, Nestor. White Sox, Blue Jays, Nick Nastrini, Chris Bassett. What a slate, guys. Braves, are you guys going to start winning some games? It's been a shaky little run here.